What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford, Turki Alalshikh, a portrait in a pear tree, and let's get to it. Listen, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford is now being targeted by Turki Alalshikh for December or January in Estados Unidos, America. Let me counterpunch. Listen, Canelo Alvarez has stated that he's not and he doesn't have any interest in fighting Terence Crawford. Well, my counterpunch is if David Benavidez goes to 175, there's really nobody else to fight. I mean, you've got all the belts. You're the king at 168. And he's not going down for anybody or anything. So Terence Crawford has to come up. And if, says this huge number like he did with David Benavidez, 150 million or 200 million, if he says something like that, that means that Terence Crawford is a clear and present day threat to Canelo Alvarez, and he sees the value and he sees the danger of fighting him. Okay? Because the amount of money that he asked for David Benavidez was ridiculous. That's crazy. 150 million, 200 million, and that's like Floyd Mayweather money when Floyd was at the end of his thing. And I get why he's doing it, because if he's comparing himself to where Floyd was before he got out of the game and he was getting 300 million like with Manny Pacquiao, why not ask for that amount of money? I get it. But that's just too much for today's standards, because there can only be one Floyd. Money Mayweather, right? Well, I think the fight can be made, should be made, and if he avoids it again, regardless of the money demand, if he shuts that down, he may have a fear of getting beat by Terence Crawford. And let's think about that for a second. Canelo Alvarez fighting Terence Crawford to Canelo, if it's not about the money, about the ching-ching, it's a lose-lose situation for him anyway. Why? Because if he beats a small guy, he feels, I won't get credit for it. But if you get your ass whooped, all the credit's going to go right out the window. And then people are going to say, yeah, that's why you didn't want to fight him in the first place. And Terence Crawford is the true GOAT. He's the true GOAT. And of this era. And I say with Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, I think what is very important is to understand where Terence Crawford is physically. Okay, what will he do at 154? August 3rd, we'll see him at 154. And if he pulls a Vinny Pazienza, meaning if he goes up to 154 and he gets stronger at 154 versus 147 over here, people are going to look at that fight as a reality. Why? Because Canelo Alvarez's opponent before the opponent that he beat, which was Jaime Munguia, was Jermell Charlo. Where was Jermell Charlo? At 154. So you're looking at what's the difference. It's going to be hard for him to argue that I won't get credit for this. Right? Why? Because if Terence Crawford goes to 154, then he becomes a champion at 154. That's 4 weight classes: 135, 140, 147, 154. So 154. Then you decide to not fight him. There will be an issue with that, and there will be criticism, and it should be criticism, because Jermell Charlo is nowhere near Terence Crawford stylistic wise and talent wise. He's nowhere near that. And everybody really knows it. And the difference is there ain't none. The only difference is with weight-wise, you have to fight him because you fought a guy that wasn't as polished as the guy that wants to fight you, and his name is Terence Crawford. And people are going to see that. They're going to see, well, wait a minute. You drug Jermell up from 154, but you can't drag Terence Crawford up, and he's challenging you. See, Terence Crawford, yeah, he wants the money and big money fights and stuff like that. But I know the true intention of Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford wants to test himself. If the cap is 168, so be it. So be it. Because that's not the only person that Canelo Alvarez has drug up to a certain weight class. You know, so we have Amir Khan. He took Amir Khan from 147 and drug him up past 154 to 155, his own Canelo weight. Then he made Jermell Charlo come to 168 because he's the king at 168. And, you know, and that fight happened. And now if Terence Crawford goes and does a job with this man August 3rd, and then you have a problem with it, that means you're going against the grain. That means you're contradicting yourself. That means, well, wait a minute. Why is there a hurdle for this fight, and why is there a denial for this fight when you fought Jermell Charlo? And Jermell Charlo, don't get me wrong, no disrespect to the young lion, or little Charlo, they call it. No disrespect to him. He got his money, but he really didn't come to fight. You know what I mean? And he's fighting. Jermell Charlo wasn't that guy that was reviewed like that. He's a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. He has power. He has a good chin on him, like both of those brothers do. You know, they're tough guys. They're durable. Louisiana born, Houston raised, right? Fighters. But they weren't on a level as Terence Crawford. They weren't reviewed as, hey, pound for pound guys. They weren't. You know what I mean? They were always overlooked by other fighters that were, you know, that had more talent. Okay, so that being said, Canelo Alvarez, he really needs to sit down. If you're not going to fight David Benavidez, if you're not going to fight him, you need to fight Terence Crawford, and this is the time to make it. You got your buzz around, you got the momentum, because it's like this. After everyone's win, everyone piles on the bandwagon, and that's exactly what's happened for Canelo. When you hear the comments about a possible fight between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, everybody's saying, man, Canelo's going to crush him because of what he did to Jaime Munguia. But understand, Jaime Munguia was able to touch Canelo at times. Don't get me wrong, Canelo's defense is still good, but it wasn't what it used to be. You know what I mean? And Jaime Munguia is not a Terence Crawford. Sure, he's bigger and all that, but, you know, who says bigger is better? Okay? Because the fighters that Canelo had problems with people was smaller fighters. Floyd Mayweather, smaller fighter. Erislandy Lara, smaller fighter. Okay? These guys were smaller. They weren't huge, big guys. The bigger they are, the easier it is to hit. Really, that's what I say. So, you know, people are looking at this fight like, oh, Canelo's going to run through him. I don't think so. But it all depends on how Terence Crawford looks at 154 to me. That's my counterpunch. You guys tell me what you think of Turki, Alalshikh lobbying, demanding, wanting the fight between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez in December or January. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!